Hey everybody, I hope you're ready for a video that I have had so much fun making. Now I'm not going to say much more because we're going to go ahead and get this video started, but I do have some things to say at the end of the video. I have a big surprise for you all. I hope you're going to love it as much as I love it. We are going to be showcasing the Undertaker. Yes, I said the Undertaker. Let's go ahead and get the project started and I'll meet you back here at the end. With this first project, I want you to go grab something out of your stash, anything that's a flat surface, because this will work on it. I am using things out of my stash for this whole video. Now, I'm using this little cutting board that was raw and in a pack of raw wood shapes. I painted it white originally and I just put it away for a future project. When I got it out, I decided I needed a darker background, so I used my folk art in the color Mineral. It's really dried up and I'm trying to get it used, and it worked perfect for this. Now what we're going to do, we're going to grab some kind of cream or light color paint. I'm using DIY crinoline for this. I'm just kind of smearing it on, and then I decide, you know what, I'm just going to use a paper towel because I want the texture and I don't want this to have brush strokes or be too stippled. So I ended up grabbing a paper towel and just kind of tapping all over it, and I like that so much I just used it on the paper towel and just kept going until I got as much as I wanted on there. I took my dryer and dried it just a little bit so we didn't have, or so we could layer the paint versus smearing it in the wet paint. Now we did have a little bit of damp paint that blended in with this, which is perfect, but we also wanted some dry areas to layer on top and not soak in. All right, so I'm using I think it's cobblestone in folk art, and then I grabbed that Fusion bronze metallic and just kind of wiped it all over the sides. We will use that a little bit later on around those edges again. Now I decided that my cream paint was not deep enough or didn't have enough depth to it, so I grabbed some of this white or very pale gray. It's like, I think it's tarnished pearl in DIY, but you could use a very light gray for this, and just again dabbing it on with that paper towel, getting the look that I want. Once I get the paint the way that I want it and it dries, I'm going to go ahead and sand just all over a little bit with a fine grit sandpaper to blend it into each other and give it a little bit more of an aged look. Now we are going to be using these gorgeous pastiche stamps and branches, and I think it's leaves, branches and leaves. Now I got this branches and leaves off of eBay. I think it is a retired stamp. I think I only paid $15.95 for that. Some of the stamps you can get pretty reasonable that are retired, so definitely check eBay. Alright, I'm going to use my black Stays On ink because it dries really quick, and it is my favorite when I have a good pad. This stuff does dry out, and if it does and I don't have one, I use the IOD ink. It just takes a little longer because it's a different formula. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put some branches on here, and you'll see I kind of made a mistake. In my eyes, I made a mistake. I should have done this last, but we did it first because I was thinking about background. Now I have this little raven stamp, and I took a piece of clear acetate, which you could use packaging, clear packaging, stamped on it with the Stays On, and then cut it out so I would have my own little mask. I just used that mask as a placement for my little raven and moved it and just put my little raven down there, and isn't it just gorgeous? Oh my gosh, I love this stamp, and it was just a cheap stamp off the internet, no brand name that I know of. Now if you don't have the IOD stamps, you can still use stencils. You can grab stuff from the Dollar Tree to use, so don't let not having IOD stamps or the stamps that I have hold you back. Make your own little scene with whatever you have. Once we finish that, we're going to dry it just a little bit and put the mask back over it because we're going to use this beautiful cage from that pastiche stamp. I'm going to go ahead and use my masks for the branches as well. When you are stamping over masks, you want to be really mindful of stamping really close and hard around those masks that's underneath, because it will leave a lot of white around the area, and you're going to see that coming up right here. If that doesn't bother you, go ahead and leave it, but I'm going to try to stamp back around mine a little bit on that area. And now I'm working on covering those branches that just kind of look weird or out of place. And once we do this, you're not even going to be able to tell that those branches were there. To finish this piece off, I'm going to add some of these ferns that came with the Petite stamp at the bottom. I am sorry that that is out of place and you couldn't see it. And I'm taking, and I am sorry, my little grand dog Chloe is barking. Okay, now she's quit. Bless her little heart. Okay, we are just going to use some of the crackle stamps from IOD to finish this piece off. I am kind of going over all of the stamping just a little bit with that sandpaper to give it that old worn look. Remember I said we were going to go back and use some more of that Fusion Metallic? I'm doing just that. I don't like the crisp stamping on the edges of this piece, so we're going to cover them a little bit with that Fusion Metallic paint. If you've enjoyed the process of this project, let me know in the comments below. I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone who's watching. This next project, oh my gosh, you asked for the Curio, you asked for everything that I put in the community tab, what you wanted to see, so I just put everything in here. This one is going to be a little Curio, and we're going to put this piece of clock as our background, and our focal point is going to be this Poe picture that came out of a scrapbook pad from Halloween from a couple years ago. So what I'm going to do is just cut the background off of him so you can still see the gold around him on the clock. And then I'm going to add some dark wax that I just have on my brush, one of my dark wax brushes, and kind of pat that off because we want this to be a little bit aged. And then I'm going to grab my E6000 that I had to cut the bottom of the tube because the top was all stopped up. Grab some hot glue and put this thing in the back of this box. Alright, next up, do not pay any attention to the frame on Poe. That's getting changed. I made this bottle up and I wanted to show you one. I'm going to make a little small one. It's got some labels on it. I used just my permanent glue stick. It works perfect. You kind of have to bend the labels a little bit and hold them just a few seconds. And this sticks perfect. And you know what? If glue gets all over the bottle, that's wonderful because we want them to look aged. And I'm going to do some aging coming up. But I'm sorry for this frame. I am going to change frames where you guys can see me do more work in the box coming up. Alright, these labels looked a little new, so I added some more of that little wax. And now that is called granite paste. This stuff is amazing. I've had it for a while and I used to use it when I did junk journals, but I'm putting it on the bottles to make it look like, you know, they're old and grungy, and we'll use it on a couple other things coming up. Now I'm going to show you, I took that other frame off, and we're going to use one of these Tim Holtz frames. I tried to find them and I couldn't, and that's why I had the other one, but then I was looking for something and there they were. So they look like metal, but they're like a metallic bronze, and I just used the same glue, hot glue, and some of the E6000 to put around Poe. I got a couple little strips of paper with just some print on them in black to put them on each side of this, just to try to finish it off, and we put something else on the top a little bit later, but for right now we're just going to use these strips to frame out our clock piece. Now it's going to start the fun stuff. So I have this little snow globe or globe. It's a Tim Holtz. He has made several, and this is the one with the wood bottom. I'm taking some metallic wax in bronze and just making this bronze on the bottom because you're not going to be able to see the wood once we put stuff in the globe. Now I have a bunch of little skeleton parts left over from last year, and I'm going to use this pelvic with a little bit of spine. I'm going to put some black ink on it that I've got on this little finger dauber. And I'm going to grab some of this mummy cloth, which is a Tim Holtz product. I'm going to add some of that black ink to it just to age it. We're going to stick that right in the bottom with some hot glue, and then also use some hot glue to add our little skeleton parts. I found this little raven or paper crow that was in some of my Tim Holtz stuff. So I'm just going to take some hot glue and stick him right on like he's sitting on that spine. Before we get too far with all these fun little trinkets, I want to add some paper all around the inside of my box. Now this is also some Tim Holtz paper. Just remember, if you have little stuff or any kind of stuff in your stash, get it out. You can make curio boxes with all kinds of things. We've made plenty of curio type things on this channel with sewing supplies, old photo supplies, so be creative. All right, we've got that all glued in, and now I'm just gonna roughly go around this box. In the beginning, this box was yellow, and then I painted it a flat chalk paint black, and so now I'm just scruffing it up and getting some of that yellow to come through. After I do that, I'm going to take some gold leaf rub and buff and just go around sort of the edges and the corners, adding just a little bit of that gold to pull out the gold on the paper on the inside of this. And I will paint the back of this black to match the rest of it. Now I have set up a different camera shot so you guys can see as we put things in here. I will use hot glue and E6000 to glue all these items in. I'm just trying to set it up and see kind of how I want it to look. And once I get an idea of how things are going to lay out, then I just start kind of gluing things down. So I have these really creepy candles and candle holders that I'm showing you here, but I had made some up for another project a few years ago and they're already glued together. So I'm just showing you here how they are. Now the one is so crooked, but you know what? It actually gives it character and I don't try to mess with it. These little things have been thrown around and they've not came apart, and I cannot tell you what glue I used. That's been so long ago. But I also have this little gravestone from Tim Holtz, and it's just a little too gray and white for me, so we're going to add some of this bronzing wax. I could not find my new tube, and this stuff is so hard. I apologize if anything's out of frame. I promise you I'm trying my best to get you guys to be able to see these really tiny things with this setup. So I'm just rubbing that wax on there to kind of tone this back, and then we're going to use just some paint to paint RIP on here. There's lots of things you could do. You could put a photo, you could print off a little headstone thing that says dates and things like that, but I didn't do that. I just painted RIP because we're going to add some other things and the bottom of it is going to get covered up. The next little piece is a label. Tim Holtz has metal labels, and this one, and they're all gray. This one says Bone Collector, and I just took some white paint, black paint, and some of that bronzing stuff and put on here. And now I'm showing you that I'm going to be using some of these little brads, and I'm just sticking them in there, and I'm going to smash the back over, and I end up taking some glue and a long piece of paper to hold those in place. That way when I glue it on, those little screws won't go anywhere. I'm also adding some of that bronze to those brad heads just to tone them back as well. Alright, so let's start getting this put together. I've kind of got ideas of what I want to put in there, and I'm grabbing that E6000 and a little bit of hot glue. I have laid down some of that mummy cloth. It's going to be around the back of my little grave. We're going to actually make a little grave area there. I'm taking these little mixed up rocks. They are kind of green and black, and just pouring them on top of some hot glue I put there, kind of pushing them down into the glue. That way it kind of looks like a little bit of a grave we go ahead and add, I have this moss, I got a bag of it from Hobby Lobby that has a bunch of different looking mosses and lichen in it, so I'm just going to add some of that around my grave. I've glued my bottles down, done the same thing, put some of that moss and the mummy cloth behind them. Now I have this little skeleton head. It's off a skeleton from the Dollar Tree. I just cut the back of it off and I'm laying it down with some bones that are from Tim Holtz, just to make a little bone graveyard on top of the grave. I go ahead and add this little globe or crystal ball. I found this little metal rib cage and kind of laid it in there. Added a little bit more moss and some of that rock kind of around, a little cute little spider. And if you look coming up, I added a knob on the top and half beads for feet at the bottom. Plus, I found this cool broken monocle, Tim Holtz monocle glass. It's supposed to have a whole glass, but it was broke. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put that over his eyes. You all will have to let me know if you like this type of project. I absolutely love doing these. They are so fun, getting it prepared and then adding all the cool little pieces. I would love to do more of these for you all in the future. Let me know what you think. Project 3 and 4 are really easy, and actually I love these the way they are, but I have a really adorable project in mind for these. I only paid $1.50 a piece for these, and they were from Walmart, which I don't ever remember seeing these in my Walmart because, like I said, I really think these are adorable. I'm going to go ahead and paint this frame. It's a very dry sort of press board, and it doesn't even have any finish on it. So we're going to paint it with that mineral, get it really good and coated and dry. We're leaving that cream and black, but we need to age it up because the art prints that's going in these, oh my gosh, you guys, they are so okay, they're super adorable, but they're also very dark academia. So I'm excited for y'all to see these, but I wanted to get the frames done before we put it in them. So we just put this grunge glaze on by Dixie Belle. It looks gray or blue, but it dries beautifully. I use a paper towel to kind of wipe back and then smudge it a little bit. I want to show you after this dries how it looks up close. So I'm going to just bring this up and you can kind of see the little bit of grungy on it and aged look. And to give this frame a little bit more color and a little bit of a magical look, we're going to add some silver wax to this. Yes, I said silver, but isn't that gorgeous on that mineral paint? And I have this other color. It is sort of a creamy gold. It's nothing like the Rub and Buff. We're going to add some of that because we need a little bit of warmth to this. I think it's called Silk, and it is by Prima. Add that on to finish the edges of this off. I went ahead and added the art prints in these. I did both frames exactly how I showed you on here. And look, you all, I am not normally a person that puts animals in my decor, but these look so spooky and dark academia for the season. I had to have them. They came from Temu in a pack of like 20, and they're 4x6s. Look at that boy cat. Oh my goodness. Okay, these are going to go in my booth, even though I really would love to keep them. You guys will have to let me know what you think about these. Project number 5, we are going to mosey on over to my newly organized decoupage papers and transfers and grab this definitely dark academia Prima transfer. Look at my papers, you guys. Let's see how long this organization lasts. All right, we're going to use this little riser I had made for something else. I'm using moss green. You know, I had to pull the green out. I love this color. Isn't that gorgeous? It is a folk art chalk paint. And next we're going to use this Redesigned by Prima Botanical stamp. I'm just going to pick an area that has some of the larger script and some of the tiny script. Use my StazOn black ink pad and just script the whole top of this as a background. I just love this stamp, and I had to flip this over because they were trying to fall off and I wanted them to stay in line, but isn't that gorgeous? Now we are going to be using All My Findings Transfer by Prima Redesign. So it's All My Findings. I got this off Etsy. It comes with 2 of these rollouts of transfers. There's all kinds of different things on it, and I think it's just gorgeous. So I picked out one off of the other transfer that I'm getting ready to show you, and it is a little sign that has like a little chain on it with some mushrooms. I went ahead and cut that out, and we're going to use that to put on this riser. So a couple things. It is definitely a different texture than IOD transfers, and it left a lot of bubbles. I've never experienced that, so I had to kind of go back and rake the bubbles out, but they came out, and now I'm just putting a clear wax over the whole thing. I do go ahead and add a little bit of dark wax to this. I paint those feet black, and this piece is finished. How easy was that? Project number 6 is something that everyone has if they are a thrifter. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about this coming up, but this is a rolling pin that I paid $3 for. Nothing special. It's a newer one. Now, to paint this, we're going to be using Paint Couture's Pitch Black. I ordered some of this Paint Couture in different colors just to try it out. It has a built-in sealer. I'm just going to tell you this stuff covers just like Fusion. It is thin just like Fusion. I absolutely love it. What I want to tell you about rolling pins, not specifically this one, I started out making all kinds of rolling pins because people was like, oh, they sell, I can't keep them. No, they did not sell. They sat there. I've been in my booth. It was a year in July this month. And over the last 2 months, guess what? I have no rolling pins left in my booth. I even sold one not too long ago that I made from last Halloween. I don't know, it's crazy. So we are going to make another Halloween sort of one. This is a little bit more darker, but this is totally different than the one I made last year. The last year one was black and white. I'm doing black on the rolling pin part, and the handles I'm using this Fusion copper. Isn't that gorgeous? Super coverage. You can see I'm only having to use 1 coat. I'm going to be using my Anatomy stamp set from Tim Holtz. I love this set. It's one of my favorite. I actually use this on the same on the rolling pin I did last year. I'm using this Spectrum Noir bronze. Even though it looks copper, it's called bronze. The metallic on this, I've had this one, a gold one, and a silver one for years, and they are just still so juicy. And I'm just rolling or curving my stamp around the pin, and each one I'm just going to offset from the other so they don't look uniform. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I really want to keep this too for myself, but I don't. Now the handles are a little lighter, and we're going to do something to fix that here in just a little bit. Of course, they don't have to match as long as they look good together. I got the whole thing stamped, and now I'm just adding some black wax to those handles, wiping them back a little bit. I absolutely love this, and I'm going to sit down and make up a bunch of rolling pins because I stopped making them, but I have a bunch in my stash. Let me know if you guys like this one. I hope you guys enjoyed those projects, and let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe by clicking on my little photo at the end of this video. Now this is the Undertaker, and I made this about 4 years ago, maybe a little longer, but this is a behemoth. It's an old Victorian photo album that I took apart and turned it into what's called the Undertaker. And we have Mr. Undertaker here on the spine. Just a warning, if you do not like macabre or things that are like skeletons or anatomy, this may not be up your alley. So for those of you that may enjoy it, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Super excited to share this with you all. Now I'm gonna give you a little bit of background about this, and then I'll play music to some of the flip through. I did say this was an old Victorian photo album. I've had to create a new spine because the spine was falling apart. I think it originally had a latch on it that I had to take off because I think it was also falling apart. And I took all of the placeholders for photos that was inside out, and I did put some back in to use in this album. Now this is a junk journal, and my junk journals, I don't really write in them. I make them more as to look at. What I have put in this book is tons of book pages, wallpaper from wallpaper sample books, collages. I love to do collages, sewing, texture, including different types of materials, different pages, especially things like acetate and vellum, lots of jelly printing, if you know what that is, lots of sewing, different types of ribbons, fabrics, laces, some things that's considered trash I've used, stenciling, stamping, again, printing, especially digitals that I might have found or made myself, copies of what I call death cards, photos of graveyards, embalming tools, sketches of embalming tables. I mean, anything that applies to this genre. It was so much fun putting this together. I am a theme girl. I love to make themes, and most of my journals, junk journals, are themed because the hunt to find the stuff and then put it together is amazing. It's amazing from start to beginning because you're looking for all the things that's going to go in this amazing theme that you've thought up, and then you're going to put it all together. It's like decorating a cake once you've made the book. So, of course, some things I already had made up, and they just fit right in. You'll see book pages that have how to draw human anatomy. You're going to see so many different things in here. It's going to be hard to catch them all. You can definitely slow this down with the settings on your YouTube channel, but I didn't want to make this video super long, so I'm going to go ahead and let you finish watching this, and I'll see you real soon in the next video.